the webinar on CPSV-AP, and before we start with the usual procedure, I would like to introduce our new colleague, who is a new official joining the SEMIC team, George Lobo. So George, would you like to say hello before we start?
Hello. No.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm
So,
joining. Yeah, I'm new to SEMIC. I'm not new to Digit, but I'm new to SEMIC. So happy to be here.
yes, we are happy to have you, George, and George will be following oral activities from now on. So have this in mind, he's a new contact for you. Okay, so a few words of practicalities. As you may know, you will be all muted. You can use the chat to post any questions that you would like to address to the speakers or in general related to CPSV-AP. And this session will be recorded. So if you don't have any objections, we will start with the recording now. In the agenda for this webinar, we will go through, for those who are not familiar with SEMIC, what SEMIC is about, and then we will give you an update about what has happened lately with CPSV-AP and the survey that we shared, and what is the feedback that we received. And then we will have two different use cases presented, one from Finland and one from Greece. So let's see what, can we please go to the next slide? Yes. So as I said, for you probably are all familiar with SEMIC, but just in case for the new entries in our audience, I would like to say that SEMIC focuses mainly on, is a knowledge hub, focuses on knowledge exchange on semantic interoperability, and is implemented a set of pilots. And the main thing that SEMIC offers is the semantic specifications that are aimed to facilitate semantic interoperability. The main actions that SEMIC is focusing on is the data spaces, where we proudly have the CAT-AP as our main specification and our flagship. We have the catalog of services, and CPSV is related to it. We have the base registries action, and also we provide support in the interoperability policy implementation. And lately our new actions is artificial intelligence for interoperability, and also interoperability for artificial intelligence. So I think that now we can proceed with the main topics of this. And okay, sorry, I forgot to mention all our specifications. So SEMIC has the core vocabularies, which are domain agnostic and are aimed to facilitate public administrators in knowledge exchange on main entities that are related to public administrations. So we have the core person, vocabulary, core business, core location, core criterion and evidence, core public organization, public event, and we also have ADMS, which is not a core vocabulary, but it is aimed to provide metadata for solutions. Together with the core vocabularies, we have the application profiles. We have an application profile for core public service vocabulary. We have the DCAT-AP, which is an application profile for DCAT, for cataloging datasets. And then we have various extensions of DCAT-AP. We have BIREC DCAT-AP that is focusing on data sets that come from base registries. We also have GeoDCAT-AP focusing on geospatial data. StatDCAT-AP for datasets that come from statistical data. And lately we have also implemented ML-DCAT-AP, which is DCAT-AP focusing on machine learning datasets and models. And also we have the high-valued datasets, and there we have the extension of DCAT-AP aiming to facilitate high-value datasets. So what are the objectives of CPSV-AP? It is a model that basically describes public services related to business and life events. And the use cases that CPSV-AP is focusing on is for finding information that is specialized on public services, to facilitate the access to public service information, to manage portfolios of public services, to facilitate the execution of a public service, and to build a user-centric catalog of services. So I think now we can move on with the update of what has happened lately with CPSV-AP.
Yes, I take over, Natasha,
Yes,
from you on
thank
this
you,
part.
Emilio.
Indeed, in CPSV-AP respects a sort of timeline and is an application profile as dependencies, the dependency from different core vocabulary, in particular for core public organization, core criterion and evidence. And that's why you can see in this timeline that the release of CPSV-AP was, let's say, given May 2024, because we waited for webinars of the core vocabularies starting already in October 2023 and ending basically in April 2024 between the public reviews. So we have done the webinar in May, and today we do say a webinar on the release of May 2024. There's been some changes between the current version 3.2.0 and the previous one 3.1.1. 3.1.1 was already released basically 1 year ago almost. The main one, it was adapt to the respec styling, because all the core vocabularies, all the specification in SEMIC are adopted the respec styling, so also the CPSV-AP followed up. And there were been some changes in certain definitions of either classes or properties. Like I give an example of a decaded dataset. Into the respective model. So we follow basically the authoritative sources, in this case of DCAT. There have been also some updates for concerning the execution business case. There were some relations, if you recall, in CPSV-AP, there are some relations concerning evidence type and evidence. Evidence type is mostly on the design of the business case of the public service, but evidence is really the execution side. So there will be some relations concerning the evidence part for the use case. The changelog can be found on GitHub on the respective release. So you can find indeed the new release already online since already May, the version 3.0. And I give the floor to the rest of the team on the survey for the adoption.
Yes, thank you, Emilio. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jean-Christophe from the SEMIC team as well. We just wanted to give a brief summary of the survey that we shared a couple of months ago. So we shared a survey to persons we know are interested in CPSV-AP. The objective of the survey was to better understand the usage of the model and also what kind of challenges member states and public administration can have with implementing CPSV-AP or catalog of services, generally speaking, and ultimately to challenge ourselves and see what kind of service, what kind of support we can provide to public administrations. So actually this survey led to this actual webinar. I'll just give a brief review of the survey. If you have questions about the survey, the slides, all the results will be integrated in these slides and in the webinar report. And you can also ask questions at the end of the webinar. But so just briefly, we received 11 responses to the survey. You can see some qualitative questions and quantitative questions. So you see we ask who is using CPSV-AP. So out of 11, 6% are. And then out of the 6, for extended CPSV-AP for their own usage. Something that is also very interesting was the challenges faced by public administration. So something that can be mentioned is issues, difficulties to engage with data providers, so local administration who sometimes often don't see the value or the priority to share data in a catalog if there is no legal, if it's not legally mandatory. Also, another challenge that public administration face is more related to, you see technical challenges at the bottom. So understanding and mapping of CPSV-AP to their own data model, existing that data model, that's something that has been mentioned a number of times. Typically, so the message is that typically SEMIC can support on this. If you have issues to understand, to map CPSV-AP, you can reach out. Feel free to reach out to us on the portal via email or on GitHub pages directly. And to finish, we are of course eager to receive more responses. So we have the link on the bottom right of this slide. You can find the link of the survey, or we can also put it in the chat right now. We would be very, very happy to receive more answer, and we will address all the questions that you might have around about CPSV-AP. So this was to end the introduction of this webinar. I would leave the place to our colleague from Finland, Terry and Marco, for the presentation of the Finnish service catalog.
Yes. Thank you and good afternoon to all. I think the slide set is shown now, or is it? Not yet.
Not yet.
Yeah, try again. Maybe I'll share. Yeah, I share that one now, I think.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, good. Just a moment. So I have my screens here. So yes, hello to everyone. My name is Terhi Tuokkola, and I work as a business owner of our Finnish service catalog. And then we have also Marco with me.
Yeah, Marko Latvanen, hi, chief specialist and a guy with a fairly long background history with the Finnish service catalog.
Yes. And so we're going to present our service catalog and tell a little more about how we use CPSV application profile. But some basic things about Finnish service catalog. Suomi.fi Finnish service catalog is a national centralized data repository in which organizations describe their services and service channel in a customer-oriented manner. And Suomi, it means Finland in Finnish, if you wondered. Behind the Finnish service catalog, there is legislation that obligates public administration organizations to describe their services in the FSC. This concerns municipalities, well-being regions, which are quite new organization level in our public administration, and also central government. Finnish service catalog contains open data. It can be accessed across public API, and organizations can utilize data for their online services. For example, different websites and, for example, chatbots and so on. So Finnish service catalog is like one of our base registers. It contains data about all public services in Finland. Then a picture about concept of the Finnish service catalog. Before, organizations updated information about their services in many different systems. Nowadays, organizations update information in Finnish service catalog, and the data is used in different web services. Well, this isn't the case in every website, but we are heading towards it. This saves time and money from organizations, and also customers get better information about services. And here are our data model in a simple way. Here in the right, there are information about services and service channels. And after that, users add metadata so it can be easily used via Open API after that. Service is the key element here. It contains information about that service, what service is about, who can have it, also user instructions to how to get this service. Then we have service channels, 5 different types, and service channels are ways which users can get those services. It can be like digital channels like e-services or service locations or phone channels. We have also information about organization, but that's not the key element in Finnish service catalog. It's more like background information because we have more like customer point of view than organization point of view in FSC. Then there are different kinds of metadata, such as target groups, keywords, and lifetime events, which can be added to the services. And this metadata helps different organizations get the data and that data that they want via Open API. Data is structured, and so it gives good possibilities to use it in different ways and for different purposes. Here are some FSC key figures. So we have a lot of data, over 26,000 services and 6,300 service channels, and many users that update the data in different organizations. Almost 140 web services use the data in their websites and chatbots and different kind of web services. Yeah, then Marko.
Yup, thanks, Terhi. So the Finnish service catalog is structurally based and semantically based on CPSV-AP from way back, from the earlier incarnations of the CPSV. And we were, in relation to the CPSV, we were slightly ahead, actually. So the first idea for a national public service information data catalog came up in maybe 2011, 2012, but it took a couple of years before the the national reform of the entire public administration digital infrastructure program, which was huge, between 2014 2018 began. And so the actual creation of the Finnish service catalog took place during those years, and our first data model was created, as it says there, so like around 2015 2016. And we tried to do it first together with the city of Helsinki, but who had their own kind of service catalog, and they used it in their online services, but it was a completely different model. Personally, I called it Christmas tree because it resembled this very hierarchical, very fixed thing where every element could only sort of like appear in one specific place in that hierarchy, whereas our model, as Terhi just presented, was more like atomistic and modular, where one so like data element can actually appear in different locations at the same time. So this was so contradictory that this attempt did not succeed, but we then just proceeded alone and created the first sort of like beta and then production versions of the data model. And when CPSV-AP2 was sort of like in the works, not released yet, but the first version of CPSV was in its final stages, we got contacted by the commission, by SEMIC, and we were asked to participate. And at that point, we were actually had made quite nice progress with our data model. And so I was personally involved in the creation of CPSV2. And I think our data model actually had some impact and some contribution to CPSV version 2. And so basically it can still reflect to a certain extent in CPSV3. And when you get this material, you will also get the access to view the FSC's current data model as it's structured. So can we have the next slide, please? So I can actually take this one and then Terhi can pick up from there. So there are still no any big differences between FSC and CPSV-AP. They are firmly in the same universe, so to speak. And but in the Finnish service catalog, we haven't used all the elements of CPSV-AP. What elements we have used can be mapped and are interoperable. The basic parts are actually fairly similar. Sometimes at some points we have different sort of like meanings for some key concepts. For example, events as it appears in CPSV actually refers to a slightly different thing. Because we have been asked by service providers in Finland for adding an events category in the Finnish service catalog, but what they mean are very temporary events in the real physical world, such as some campaigning or some cultural events or anything like that. And because they are so fleeting, and the management of keeping all the service information up to date in the catalog, as you saw from what Terhi just showed you, it's a massive amount of people, and they are not always sort of like up to date themselves. So it would be too much of a risk to create such a category there. But then again, the FSC does have elements that are not in CPSV. Probably the most important one is what we call general descriptions, meaning text templates for services that are legally mandated by every municipality to offer and provide to their citizens. Finland has about 300 municipalities. And so, for example, daycare is legally mandated for all those 300 municipalities. And before the FSC, they all wrote their own sort of like descriptions and texts about how they provide daycare for their own websites, which meant that you had 300 different sort of like interpretations of what daycare is in a way. And legally, it's the same service. And so we provide a text template for all these legally mandated municipal services for all municipalities to use, but they can then add their own details to that text. So they are sort of like harmonized automatically to an extent at least. The FSC also has accessibility information, but only in the sense of physical accessibility for service locations. can I enter this service location on a wheelchair? Are there like extra barriers for moving around and so on and so on? And so there's also something called service collection. And I think I'll throw the ball to Terhi at this point because she can better explain what a service collection in FSC currently is. Thank you.
Yeah, service collection, they are like just simple collections where you can add services and also service channels. And it's easier way to use data in your website if you don't want to use those service classes or target groups and so on. Yeah, one slide for Marco.
Unmute there. So as I mentioned, CPSV was only at its very early stages when we had been in development for a longer time. And there is a slight difference in the point of view, in the approach of FSC and the CPSV. So CPSV is very much concerned with interoperability across borders within the European Union. And FSC has been and still is from the word go from the very start concerned with the average users, meaning anybody who lives in Finland and is entitled to use our public services. So it's more like a handbook for the ordinary guy, and so like a perspective to all the public services and also some private services, both are non-profit and for-profit, because the FSC is actually available to use even to businesses and NGOs to describe their services in. And so the data model, if you at some point wish to look at it using the link in the presentation, it's grown into quite a structure over the years, and making changes to it is challenging because of that, but also because so many organizations, like Terhi showed you, are already using FSC and the FSC data and the data structure. So it would be quite a complicated task to make any major changes to the data model at this point. We did make some changes over about the first 2 years in production, because some organizations, some municipalities asked for certain new elements there that they felt they needed. And so we provided them. And so the first couple of years saw some changes, but after that it's been quiet. And we feel that the public service producing organizations are pretty satisfied and happy with the data model and structure that we have at the moment. And so the FSC basically promotes interoperability in Finland, and also because it's available elsewhere as well. In a very broad sense, we have a uniform model for organizations to describe their services, a uniform structure, uniform data elements, and also a uniform metadata layer. And you have basically, I think, pretty much close to 100% now, all the public services described in this data model and in the structure now in one place, aligned or connected to one publicly available and usable API. And there is something called the Finnish Interoperability Platform, also managed by our agency, the Finnish Digital Agency, DVV, that has all these interoperability elements, code lists, the data model itself, and also the Finnish Service Catalog's own glossary is there for use, and if you just want to take a look at it in Finnish, Swedish, and I think English as well. And of course, the Finnish Interoperability Platform has tons and tons of other stuff as well, but there's a section for the FSC as well. And now over to Terhi.
Yeah, here are some examples about how Finnish Service Catalog data is used in different web services. Over 66 municipalities use FSC's data in their websites. Here is example city of Tampere. They are using libraries data and libraries opening hours, taking those from Finnish service catalog to tampere.fi. Also, most of the public healthcare service, these well-being regions use Finnish service catalogs data in their websites. Here is one example from well-being region of Central Uusimaa. In Suomi.fi web service, we have also this kind of permits wizard. Suomi.fi is a public web service that brings together all the data from FSC. FSC's data helps us to answer requirements that come from the SDG regulation, Services Directive, and Professional Qualifications Directive. Here in Permits Wizard, a starting entrepreneur can find out what permits are needed in their industry. The wizard uses FSC's data. The user receives direct links and PAN numbers to use the service, but the actual service use takes place in the authority's own services. And because we have such a large amount of data, quality is an important thing. We have tools that help users to create quality data. For example, text checking tool that gives correction suggestions for spelling mistakes, grammar mistake, and text that do not follow our data model. We have automatic email notifications once a month so that users remember to update the data. And also those general descriptions that Marco tell you about. And of course, we have different kinds of reports about the data's quantity and quality. Yes, this was Finnish service catalog, and thank you. I answered a couple of questions in the chat, but I can check if there's also answer in there.
Yes, thank you very, very much, Terry and Marco, for your presentation. Indeed, you can continue to ask questions in the chat. We propose to address the unaddressed question at the end after the presentation of the colleagues from Greece. So I would propose to continue to go to the Mythos presentation.
Okay. Thank you, Jean-Christophe. Is it possible for me to share my presentation?
Yeah, I think it's should be okay. It's buffering, so yes, I can see it. Okay,
so thank you. I'm Iraklis Varlamis. I represent here the Directorate of Digital Transformation and Digital Competencies of GRNet. GRNet is a company under the Ministry of Digital Governance responsible for the national infrastructure for research and technology. I'm also a professor at Karakovi University of Athens, and together with me today is also Professor Efthimios Tambouris of from the University of Macedonia. We will try to present you Mythos, the Greek National Registry of Procedures. The word mythos, just an explanation in the beginning, comes from the Greek word that means, is a Greek word that means thread. And according to the legend, mythos represents the thread that Ariadne gave to Theseus to help him exit the labyrinth of King Minos. So the idea is that mythos is there to help citizens exit the labyrinth of bureaucracy. So the idea for the Greek registry is somewhat different. So we have a work plan that starts by registering all the public services and the procedures that have to be carried out behind them in order to deliver the services. Then we have a national framework for simplifying the procedures. And finally, we have the service, let's say, service delivery portals that offer these services as executable services to the citizens. And there we have GovGR, and the European Portal for Cross-Border Services, the EU portal. So Mythos is the first step of this work plan. Of course, the other two are already up and running, but Mythos, let's say, is the first part of this puzzle. Using Mythos, the metadata that Mythos provides and all the details that Mythos provides about services and the procedures behind them, the European citizens, and of course the Greek citizens too, can find the information about the specific service that they need in your Euro portal. They can then be redirected to Mythos to learn more about this service. And finally, they are redirected to GovGR in order to have an online service delivery wherever it is available. So this is an actual image of what a European citizen can see in your Euro portal. He can check the type of business or citizen that is interested, the country that he's interested to, the topic, the live event, and then he's redirected to a list of services that are addressed to this case. And this information is directly extracted from Mythos, retrieved from Mythos, and depicted in your Euro portal. From there, gets also a link with more detailed description. This is a screenshot from the description that someone gets in Mythos environment. As you will see later on, but you can also see here, we have several fields of information that describe the service. We follow in a great extent the information model provided by CPSV. And finally, the user is redirected to GovGR, where he or she can start an application about the specific service. So as you see here, Mythos is the central, let's say, pillar of this puzzle with different building blocks. The framework for process simplification, the observatory for bureaucracy, but also Mythos. And then on top of Mythos and using the information data of Mythos, it's GovGR, the public service catalog, the citizen service centers, which also get information from Mythos, the EU Go portal, and of course, all other services that service delivery portals that extract information from it. How all this has been achieved, I will try to briefly explain how Mythos has been set up. Mythos has a very interesting governance model that engages several public administration members who have different roles. They are either editors that are responsible for registering and updating a small number of procedures, special editors for specific tasks, registering tasks for specific groups of procedures. We have administrators that define and supervise the editors and compile the catalog of procedures per ministry, and they also finalize the changes. And we have also the project supervisors in the Ministry of Interior Affairs that overviews the whole process. And of course, we have with green here smaller groups of administratives that supervise the whole process and do some tasks outside of the actual platform. Then we have a collaborative platform, which is the MediaWiki, which is based on MediaWiki. MediaWiki is the same software that is used by Wikipedia. It's an open source software and can be expanded in various ways. As you see here, MediaWiki, as you probably know, MediaWiki has a single form for editing and typing and editing its page. In the case of Mythos, we had to extend this capability with more complex forms, with several forms, with different fields, with drop-down menus, and so on and so forth. So for this purpose, we use PageForm, an extension of MediaWiki, and this is what we have achieved so far. And the advantages of this combination is that the editors of Mythos, who are not experts or MediaWiki experts, they can easily fill the form, fill the information about their procedures forms with a lot of help, of tips and support and also control in order to have correct information with a few clicks or with less effort and fewer mistakes. We also have several validation rules that are applied to certain fields, and this also offers consistency to the data that we have. This is the final result, what is the citizens view. As you see here, this is an English description. We also have the description in Greek, the description in English for a small amount of the total services that we have in Windows. And as I told you before, we have a data quality control mechanism, which is mainly based to the interoperability with other registries, with external registries. So we have an external registry of organizations, and we connect with this registry to get updated information about public organizations. We have a registry of fees, and we also use it. We have a registry of live events, or the vocabulary of live events that we also use in Mythos. And of course, in several other parts of the application, we have drop-down lists with specific entries that are linked, let's say, to side registries that we have developed for Mythos. We have a side registry for evidences, which is the first registry of its type in Greece. We have a registry of service delivery points, a registry that contains metadata about the registries that each of the organization maintains and updates as a result of the service. And finally, we have a registry of procedure steps. So in order to control this, the quality of this data and enhance the quality of this data, we have a lot of scripts and tools organized in a platform aside of Mythos, let's say, that allows the administrators of Mythos to consistently check and notify the editors about mistakes or inconsistencies. I will try now to provide more details about what we have done with CPSV-AP in Mythos. So as I told you before, we have 3,400 published procedures, more or less, in Greek, and more than 500 procedures in English. And we also have 500 procedures that are still under, let's say, development, under registration in Mythos. We use the main information fields, find the CPSV, the input, the output, the cost, the point of service, the legislation, and so on. And we additionally use BPMN 2.0 for depicting the steps, the execution steps of the procedures behind this service. This is the CPSV-AP model, data model, and from this model we focus on public organization and public service, but we also have support for costs, outputs, inputs, and so on. As you see here, what is missing, according to us in CPSV, and we have to extend, is to add information about the execution steps, the procedure steps behind its service. So in this case, we adopted BPMN in order to depict these steps, but also we try to provide an easy way for our editors to register this information, to write this information, steps of its procedure. And for this purpose, we created some additional forms where the editors can describe the name of the step, the type of the step, the minimum and maximum duration, the previous or next steps, and so on. And then using this information, we automatically generate a BPMN diagram that has this structure, let's say. It contains the steps. It also has some branches, branch conditions, and in some cases, it can also have an intermediate terminating condition whenever it is necessary. So we have achieved this type of complexity. We know that probably a more detailed BPMN that is close to execution, executable BPMN would be even better, but we have to balance between the knowledge that a public administrative has and technical knowledge that is required for an executable BPMN. And the benefit is that these diagrams are automatically generated into our BPMN tool compliant. So the final result is here. I will just click on a link to show you the actual service. As you see, we have a summary of the service description. Then we have all the basic information, the application information, the ability to print the necessary documents and have it with him or her for the citizen, the requirements, the outputs, the steps, and the digital steps. And as you see here, based on this information, we have the deployment diagrams that are generated in this case, either for, let's say, the fully digital procedure or the analog, let's say, procedure. And this is, in brief, the final result of MIDOS. And as far as concerned data sharing and interoperability, we early realized that the information of MIDOS would be useful for a whole ecosystem of applications and other systems. So we decided to share the data of MIDOS via public API. We have developed certain API endpoints that return information in a JSON format, as you see here, with different samples. And this allowed us to have, let's say, replicas or copies or actual copies, let's say, working copies of the information that is registered in MIDOS in a wide range of applications. This is the application that is used for at the Citizen Service Center. This is the Euro portal. This is the EU Go portal. This is the AI chatbot, the AI-powered chatbot that has been recently included in the service portal, the GovGR service portal, service delivery portal for Greece. And all these get their information directly from MIDOS, which works now as a single point of truth for all the systems. I will now give the floor to Themis, to Professor Kabouris, and slides here. So Themis, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So this very short presentation is about the spin-off of reusing MIDOS data. Actually, it's not operational yet. It's in a pilot phase, and it's related to publishing the MIDOS data as linked open data. So if you go to the next slide, please, Iraklis. The aim is exactly to exploit the MIDOS API and publish the data that already exists there as linked open data as RDF, and aligned, of course, with CPSV-AP model. Now, what we have done as an infrastructure, we are using the free cloud-based resources and tools that are provided by BDTI, the Big Data Test Infrastructure Framework, that were very much handy for our purposes. And the aim is actually to integrate this work in the DigiGov Hub project, which is an EU-funded, co-funded actually project. So if we can see the next slide, please. This is actually the pipeline that we're using, quite simple. We fetching them data from MIDOS, the JSON information about public services already mentioned by Iraklis, and using Python scripts, which rest within BDTI infrastructure. We transform those, we map actually this data into CPSV-AP. There are quite a large number of elements in the API, more than 100. We are mapping those to CPSV-AP, but also other core vocabularies and other namespaces. And we transform them to Turtle, and then we upload these Turtle files in a Virtuoso RDF triple store that already exists in BDTI using Apache Airflow service, and we have them published in the semantic web. This is in progress. Actually, this work is in progress. Now we are going to build some front end, let's say, interfaces for people to use this service more intuitively. So if you can see the next slide is actually the mapping. This is the subset of CPSV-AP that we have actually mapped. We're actually using 16 elements of CPSV-AP related to the public service, evidence, requirement, cost, event, etc. This is what we are getting as an RDF. And if we can see the next, the pre-final actually slide is just a couple of queries. Now we can exploit this linked data using Sparkle queries. But as I said, we hope that we soon have some interfaces for people who want to travel and check the data. Like, for example, what are the most used evidences by public service? We can see there that, like, the birth certificate, which is the last in that list on the right, is used by 482 different public services in the out of those registered in Mythos in the Greek public sector. Yeah, so this is next and final. Just thanking you. This is my email. We will present actually also a paper in the GAP conference early September in Brussels, in Belgium, in Louvain. So if one is attending that conference, we will have the opportunity to say more about that project there as well. So thank you very much. That's all from me as well.
Thank you, Themis. And before closing my presentation, I would like to say a few words about how we perceive Mythos. So we think that Mythos is not only a registry for citizens and also for the public administration for having, let's say, all the information that is needed to deliver these services, but we also think that it is very important for the research community. And what we have done the last 2 years is that we have worked with teams like the team of Professor Tabouris from the University of Macedonia and also other researchers from other universities. And we have developed more projects that are now showcased in our new site, labs-mythos.gr, which also contains a few demos that have to do with visualization and data quality control and so on. We also have there, for example, here, we also have there some libraries, code libraries in Python and TypeScript for anyone that is interested in using the data of our API directly to design a new solution for the citizens or for anyone. And here we have some useful dashboards. Where is the right link anyway? I think here, dashboards. Yeah. Anyway, this is the information that we have. This is the Mythos Labs, the Labs Mythos website that contains all this information. And with that, I would like to thank you once again for your attendance. We're ready to answer any question.
Thank you very, very much, Iraklis and Eftimios, for your presentation as well. I think we have a couple of minutes if there are any questions. So I can see in the chat already some questions have been answered. Thank you, Terry, for example.
There is one about organizational interoperability issue, the difficulty to use BPMN.
Exactly.
So, Iraklis, if you want to comment on that.
I will say a word and then you can add also Themis. What I say is that the use of BPMN in practice help the public administration people to understand their procedures and understand the way that they have to execute their procedures. So the process of having to describe what are the steps and what is the sequence of steps and so on made them wiser and more, let's say, well informed about the services that they have to deliver. The visualization helped them a lot. So that's this. If you want to answer.
Yeah, I can say my experience that is also from giving training courses on BPMN to public sector employees. It's of course it's difficult for them to grasp the use, how it works. I think some of them really love it and they think it's very useful. In my experience, some others they hate it more or less, or they don't like it at all as an idea. So for those that are into it, I think it provides a useful tool. But they soon, I think, everyone soon realizes that if they want to go and do a very detailed modeling, then that's a very different story. That's quite a complex actually task to do. So yeah, that's from experience.
Thank you for this for these answers. So any other question, feel free. I believe you can also unmute your mic individually if you want to ask a question. Or in the chat.
Can I ask something? Iraklis, the Mythos labs that you mentioned, is the material available only in Greek, or we can find some documentation in English as well? Or use Google Translate?
For the moment, it's only in Greek. We
Okay.
launched it, let's say, in high, but this is a good idea. We'll try to provide information, at least in the first page. Another thing that is interesting is the way that we translated the services, the service description to Greek, to English, sorry, from Greek. So what we did is that we used the e-translate module of EU to automatically translate the documents, and then give access to a platform where these automatic translations, automated translations could be corrected, let's say, by the editors. So this helped us a lot and accelerated the process.
Maybe one related to some difficulties or challenges to receive data from data providers. If anyone has tips how to motivate data providers to at local level to provide quality data and quality data.
Well, in Finland, we have had many web courses and other materials to support those, and we have also had this kind of local workshops in different parts of Finland, so it has helped that thing. Yeah.
I can believe that also the legal part, let's say, the law helps in a way.
Yeah, it's crucial, but I think, yeah.
The same happened in Greece, more or less. We have some seminars and some teaching and support to the editors throughout this process. And this continues. I mean, that's the we continue.
Okay, it's o'clock. Do we want maybe Natasha to conclude on this webinar?
Yes, so as we said, all the recordings will be available through the SEMIC Support Center. Thank you very much for joining. We'll have the chance to see you again in a follow-up webinar after the summer. We will notify you when this will happen. If you have any questions or you need further clarifications for any of the topics that we discussed today or anything else related to catalog of services and CPSV-AP, please feel free to contact us. Thank you very much and have a nice afternoon. And also, I want to especially thank our speakers for joining us today and presenting these very nice presentations and their implementations.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Good. So just to share, where is the video? Okay, here. I